So I think there's probably, I would say, probably three. So I think what do most founders struggle with, I would say, is talent attraction. Because if you can't scale it, it's never going to be worth a lot. So size does matter because a founder, when he's looking to sell that business, the buyer wants safety in numbers. So the lower the number, the more risky the business, because obviously they can leave, it's not sticky. So if you look around Singapore, Hong Kong, etc., Asia market, the industry is dominated by boutiques. What does that tell you? Because they're struggling to attract talent. So I would say talent attraction is probably in this region would be probably the biggest factor, I would say. Can that be solved? Absolutely, 100%. It's not, I don't believe for one sec, because there are businesses. So, if you take RGF, you've got 100 people in Singapore, can be done. So there are a number of players that have done that. So I know it's absolutely possible. It's got nothing to do with it being Singapore, has nothing to do with the market. It's understanding how do I go about doing it? What is the strategy I'm going to deploy in terms of attracting those people? Because we operate in markets and sectors where if you put in the right strategy on how you do it, it does work. I have no doubt. I think corporate governance, typically, when you look to exit, if you're selling to a private equity firm, they will never buy a business that unless it is run properly, because they're buying it from you, they're not going to run it. So they need to believe that all the checks and balances and processes, etc., are in place, that their investment is safe. So, for example, a lot of founder-run businesses don't produce a proper board pack. They have, one page, financials. That's not enough. What are the key metrics in the business? What are you measuring? What are your debtor days? What's the productivity per head? A buyer wants to know, is this business being run properly? What is the kind of HR process? What is the expense policy? Does the business have a corporate manual? They need to know they're buying a ready-made business, what I call oven ready. Corporate governance, in the absence of that, is a boutique business. It's a lifestyle business. It will never be bought, because the number of reports I have read from a KPMG or PwC, etc., where they've looked at a business and on the conclusion page, there's 10 points on there, but inevitably kills the deal. So I think corporate governance quite key. I think concentration risk would be my third view. So even when I've looked at buying businesses, a recruitment business that's got between 6 to 10 people will inevitably have a concentration risk with either client. So too much of the revenue comes from one or two clients. And you know what's going to happen. I'm going to buy the business and something will happen with that client and 40% of the revenue disappears, which means the profit's been wiped out. Or too much of the revenue comes from two or three people. And you know what's going to happen there. One or two of them will go and that's it. All the profits disappeared. So they would be, in my experience, if you're looking to grow, you need to be managing the business to avoid those issues. Number one, you need to get scale, because unless you get scale, there is no intrinsic value. Doesn't mean it's a bad business. I'm sure it's still a great business. It does well, it makes money, etc. But the key issue for me is if I want to build something, I want to make money and I want to have an income, but I want to create something that will eventually have a value at some point in the future. I'm not saying everybody needs to exit or everybody wants to sell. I'm saying if you're going to build it, you may as well build it properly so that you have the option at some point, whenever that may be, that you decide, you want to retire, you want to call it a day, but you have something that has a value. And I just think there are too many founders out there that spend 10 or 15 years building the business, then trying to sell it and realize that they haven't got any of the 9 points. At which point, to be blunt, they've kind of wasted a massive opportunity, because the business could be worth 10, 15, 20 million. Only if they just did it right in the first place. The problem then is it's quite hard to undo. Whereas if you put those processes in to begin with correctly, you build the right foundation, which enables the business to build.